Video game boss battles are meant to be a test of skill, an adversary we must best in order to prove just how far we've come in the game. But there are some boss battles that are more than that, more than a simple test of skill. Some bosses, they stand apart from their peers. Perhaps it's because it's a particularly challenging fight and we felt such a sense of pride after finally besting them, or maybe it's because the mechanics of the boss battle are so unique that they stand out in our minds. Or maybe it's simply because the villain was so charismatic we just can't help but love them. Well, whatever the reason is, some boss battles have simply raised the bar for those that follow. With that in mind, here are 5 of the best boss battles in video games. I'm a huge fan of the Metal Gear series. Like a lot of people, my introduction was to Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. Being that I was only 10 years old when I first played it, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But I can tell you this, little 10-year-old me was not expecting to play one of the greatest video games ever made. Metal Gear Solid has it all, a compelling story, interesting characters, and some of the best boss fights ever. But for me, and a lot of other people, Psycho Mantis is the one that truly stands out. It's something truly special. It wasn't just that he could dodge your attacks by reading your thoughts, he also got in the players' heads another way. True to his name, Psycho Mantis employed psychological warfare. He unnerved the player by commenting on how often you saved, or just moved the controller with his mind by vibrating it, which in itself was a great feat at the time. It's a battle that starts before a single shot is even fired, and for me it is the best boss fight of the series, and one of the best in video games overall. Batman Arkham Origins was a bad game. It's certainly not the worst in the series, but that's a topic for another day. While Arkham Origins had its issues such as the cluttered combat, the janky gameplay, and the smorgasbord of bugs, it had one thing going, one thing that stood out, like a rose sprouting from manure, and that was the boss battle with Deathstroke. While there were arguably better boss fights in the series, this one stands apart because the player was going up against an adversary who was every bit as well trained as the Dark Knight himself. An enemy who, like Batman, relies on planning, cunning, and their own physical prowess. This was a tense, not to mention tough boss battle. One wrong move in this battle would cost you dearly. You had to know when to hold back and know when it was safe to go on the offensive. Timing was everything. But when you finally triumphed, that victory was all the sweeter for it. Of all the excellent boss encounters in Shadow of the Colossus, Avion, or the Flying Colossus, is, in my opinion at least, the very best. Up until this point, most of the Colossi have been relatively similar. You climb aboard an angry landlocked beast and stab him until he goes quiet. But Avion is both airborne and benevolent, meaning you are forced to force it to engage you, which in turn gives you the opportunity to clamber atop its massive form. And once battle commences, you are forced to fight in the sky, giving you a distinct disadvantage. You must adapt quickly, as timing is everything, and one wrong move could mean starting this whole process from scratch. You must know when it's best just to hold on to its mossy arse for dear life, and when it's best to strike. Couple this with the wonderful musical score that accompanies the fight, and it makes for a fantastically epic, albeit tense, boss battle. The Scarecrow is one of my favourite villains in any kind of media, be it comics, movies, or in this case, video games. He is this enigmatic maniac that uses his intelligence to strip away people's strengths until they are left a broken, quivering mess. And Batman Arkham Asylum nailed him to a T, which, admittedly, Arkham Knight completely undid. So, swings and roundabouts. What's so impressive about the Scarecrow boss fight is that even though it's 3 separate encounters, it is technically a battle that is being fought throughout the entire game. The Scarecrow has infected the Dark Knight's mind, poisoning his perception of reality and forcing him into a psychological encounter rather than a physical one, which he would undoubtedly lose. He is weaponizing fear, a tactic that Batman himself uses constantly throughout his adventures. Add to that some tense music, an oppressive atmosphere, and you have yourself a fantastic villain and a memorable boss fight. Well, what list about great boss battles in video games would be complete without an entry from the Soulsborne series? And I'm choosing a favourite among Souls fans, Father Gascoigne. While he is the second boss, it's really him that sets the bar for what kind of game Bloodborne will be. He's another hunter, not a monster, not a beast, a hunter. He has the same toolset as you, but he is absolutely relentless in his aggression. He teaches you how to play the game by forcing you to adopt his tactics. And while he is clearly an experienced and skilled hunter, in the end he transforms into the very thing he has been hunting. An almost prophetic glimpse at what could be in store for the player. And while he is an incredibly fun and fast-paced, albeit occasionally frustrating enemy to fight, he is also a tragic figure. You get the feeling he could have been the protagonist, but you arrive at the epilogue of his story and he becomes nothing more than a footnote in yours. For story and gameplay, it is hard to find a better combination.
It seems to me.
Well, those are 5 of the best boss battles in video games. Can you think of any that should have made our list, or perhaps you just disagree? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.